Hey, Ancient Odyssey fans. Welcome back to the channel where we journey through the epic stories of the past. Today, we're stepping into the heart of one of history's greatest empires with a question that's bound to spark your curiosity. What was life like in ancient Rome? Picture a world of bustling cities, gladiator showdowns, and toga-clad power players. A place where ambition, spectacle, and grit built a civilization that still shapes our lives today. From the daily grind of ordinary Romans to the jaw-dropping feats of their military, we'll explore 6 chapters that uncover the fascinating realities of life in ancient Rome. Whether you're a history buff or just love a good story, this is going to be a ride you won't forget. So grab a seat and let's explore the epic and totally relatable world of ancient Rome. Romans kicked off their mornings with a light breakfast. Think bread, cheese, maybe a handful of fruit. Unlike modern mornings, there were no quick coffee grabs. Instead, they savored their meal before heading into the bustling city streets, where merchants hawked their wares, kids played in alleys, and elite Romans wore their togas, the ancient version of a power suit. That toga wasn't just fashion. It screamed status and citizenship, a luxury not everyone could claim. Rome's social structure was as rigid as a skyscraper. At the top sat the patricians, wealthy, powerful, and connected. Below them, the plebeians, the everyday folks who kept the city humming but rarely climbed the ladder. This divide shaped everything, from where you lived to who you rubbed elbows with. Work was a vital part of Roman life, but it didn't follow the modern 9-to-5 routine. Many Romans were self-employed, running small businesses like blacksmithing, pottery, and baking, often with the help of family members. The best part, work usually wrapped up by midday. Afternoons were for fun, public baths to unwind, or a trip to the Colosseum for some jaw-dropping entertainment. Dinner was where Romans flexed. For the average Joe, it was grains, olives, fish, and a splash of wine, simple but hearty. The wealthy, though, they threw feasts straight out of a movie, reclining on couches and gorging on exotic meats and sweets. Imagine Thanksgiving, but swap the turkey for dormice and add a toga. Eating wasn't just fuel, it was a social event, a chance to show off. Next, we'll explore what urban living was like in ancient Rome. Rome wasn't just a city, it was the city, a sprawling maze of streets packed with people from all walks of life. Picture the richest of the rich living in sprawling villas with lush courtyards, fountains, and mosaic floors. These homes were status symbols, complete with private baths and gardens. Meanwhile, the average Roman lived in insulae, towering apartment blocks that could be up to 7 stories high. These were the ancient version of high-rise living, but without elevators or fire escapes. Crowded, noisy, and often rickety, they were a far cry from the luxury of the elite. But Rome wasn't just about where you lived. It was about where you hung out. The Forum was the beating heart of the city, a public square where politics, business, and gossip collided. Romans gathered here to debate laws, buy goods, or just catch up on the latest news. And when they needed to unwind, they hit the baths. These weren't just places to get clean. They were social hubs like a spa, gym, and cafe all in one. You'd soak, sweat, and maybe even seal a business deal, all before lunch. Speaking of infrastructure, the Romans were the OGs of city planning. Their roads were like the interstate highways of the ancient world, straight and sturdy, built to last. Some are still in use today. And their aqueducts? Imagine giant stone pipelines bringing fresh water from miles away, feeding fountains and baths. It's like having a high-tech water grid, but built 2,000 years ago. Entertainment? Rome had that covered too. The Colosseum was their version of a sports stadium, where gladiators battled it out in front of 50,000 screaming fans. And for a dose of culture, there were theaters hosting plays and performances. So what's the takeaway? Urban living in Rome was a blend of chaos and order, wealth and struggle, much like our cities today. Next, we'll explore entertainment and leisure in ancient Rome. Imagine stepping into a world where entertainment was as wild as a blockbuster movie and as accessible as your favorite streaming service. In ancient Rome, leisure wasn't just a pastime. It was a spectacle, a thrill, and a way of life. From sweat-soaked arenas to high-speed chariot races, Romans knew how to keep the adrenaline pumping. But it wasn't all chaos. They also savored culture, laughter, and a good bath. First up, the Colosseum, the ultimate arena of ancient Rome where gladiators battled to the death. Wild animals were unleashed on criminals, and naval reenactments flooded the floor. It was brutal, yes, but it was also a masterclass in crowd control. The Colosseum could pack in 50,000 spectators, and the best part? Admission was free, courtesy of the emperor or wealthy elites looking to win favor. If gladiators weren't your thing, maybe chariot races were. Held at the Circus Maximus, a massive track that could hold up to 250,000 fans. Teams, backed by rabid fans, competed fiercely, and the stakes were high: fame, fortune, or a fiery wreck. The roar of the crowd, the thunder of hooves, the dust in the air, it was pure, unfiltered excitement. For those who preferred a bit more culture with their thrills, Rome's theaters delivered. Think of them as the movie theaters of their day, staging everything from laugh-out-loud comedies to gut-wrenching tragedies. Plays often riffed on Greek myths or Roman history, with actors donning masks to bring characters to life. And instead of popcorn, you'd snack on nuts or fruit while soaking in the drama. It wasn't just entertainment, it was a history lesson wrapped in a show. But Romans didn't just spectate, they also knew how to unwind. Enter the baths, the ancient world's answer to a spa, gym, and social club all rolled into one. These weren't just places to get clean. They were where you'd go to relax, exercise, and socialize. Picture it. After a long day, you'd hit the caldarium to sweat out the stress, then cool off in the frigidarium. And the best part, baths were open to everyone. Sure, the wealthy had their private suites, but even the poorest Roman could afford a dip. It was one of the few places where social classes mixed, even if the rich kept to their VIP sections. Entertainment and leisure in Rome were a wild mix of thrill, culture, and relaxation. A world where you could watch a gladiator duel in the morning, catch a play in the afternoon, and soak away the day's chaos by evening. Next time you're glued to your screen, remember, the Romans were doing it first, just with more sand and less Wi-Fi. Next, we'll explore the culture and beliefs of ancient Romans. Ancient Romans didn't just live. They celebrated and worshipped in ways that still echo through our lives today. Festivals were the heartbeat of Roman life, and they threw parties like no one else. Their festivals honored everything from crop harvests to military victories. But Romans took it up a notch with games, feasts, and sacrifices to the gods. It was a full-on spectacle, a chance to let loose and remind everyone of Rome's power and glory. Their gods were a big deal, too. The Romans worshipped a pantheon similar to the Greeks. Jupiter as the king, Juno as his queen, Mars as the war god, but with a Roman spin. These deities weren't distant, they were part of the daily grind. Romans built stunning temples like the Pantheon, which still stands today as proof of their devotion and engineering genius. Every public event, from Senate meetings to battles, started with a nod to the gods, like kicking off a big game with the national anthem, but with incense and prayers. Then there's their art and literature. Romans turned floors into stunning mosaics, carved life into marble, and wrote epics like Virgil's Aeneid, full of heroes and destiny. Their creativity wasn't just for kicks, it showed off their smarts and style. And their architecture? If you've ever gawked at a domed building or a grand arch, tip your hat to Rome. They set the stage for Western civilization's look and feel. Some of our laws and languages carry Roman roots. Next time you're at a parade or using the word Senate, you're tapping into ancient Rome. They're like the grandparents of our modern world, leaving a legacy that's still kicking after all these centuries. Next, we'll explore governance and power in ancient Rome. Picture a government so influential it shaped the world for centuries, with a system that feels oddly familiar yet wildly different from our own. Ancient Rome's governance and power structure was a mix of brilliance, ambition, and raw control, a political drama that could rival any modern TV show. From senators in togas to emperors with near-godlike status, Rome's power game was intense, and its echoes still linger in our own democracy. Citizens, mostly free men, voted for leaders, but the real muscle was in the Senate, a group of wealthy, elite patricians who debated laws and policies. Two consuls, elected yearly, acted like co-presidents, sharing power to avoid any one person becoming too mighty. But here's where it gets juicy. The Republic wasn't perfect. Ambitious men like Julius Caesar saw opportunities to bend the rules. His assassination in 44 BC sparked chaos, paving the way for the empire. Enter Augustus, the first emperor, who established the Principate, a system where the emperor held significant power while maintaining the facade of a republic. Emperors wielded control over the military, finances, and even religious institutions, consolidating their authority. The empire's reach was staggering, stretching from Britain to North Africa, with Rome as its beating heart. Governors, appointed by the emperor, ran provinces like state governors, but with more swords and less paperwork. Taxes kept the empire flush, funding roads, aqueducts, and those epic Colosseum shows. But not everyone was happy. Heavy taxes and harsh rule sparked revolts. Power wasn't just politics, it was a spectacle. Emperors threw lavish games and handed out free grain to keep the masses loyal. Loyalty was everything, and betrayal, like a senator plotting against the emperor, could mean a quick trip to exile or worse. Rome's governance wasn't all about control, it laid roots for our modern world. Our legal system? Inspired by Roman law. But could you imagine a president declaring themselves divine, or a single leader controlling an empire that size? Probably not. Still, Rome's blend of democracy, ambition, and raw power makes you wonder. How much of their game are we still playing today? Next, we'll explore Roman military strength and strategy. Imagine an army so disciplined, so fearsome, it built an empire that stretched from the Atlantic to the Middle East. The Roman military was the backbone of Rome's power, and it was a machine of strength, strategy, and sheer grit. Think of it as the ancient world's equivalent of the armed forces of a modern superpower, with a formidable combination of tactical brilliance, logistical expertise, and unyielding determination. Let's dive into what made the Roman military unstoppable and why it still captivates us today. The Roman legions were the heart of the military. They were elite units of about 5,000 soldiers each, trained to march, fight, and build like clockwork. These weren't just weekend warriors. Legionaries were full-time pros, often serving 25 years. Picture a Marine Corps recruit, but instead of boot camp, they're drilling with 60 pounds of gear and learning to swing a gladius, the short sword that made Romans deadly in close combat. Discipline was brutal. Mess up, and you might face a whipping or worse. But that discipline turned legions into a force that could crush enemies or build a bridge in a day. Strategy was Rome's secret sauce. Their armies didn't just charge in, they planned like chess masters. The testudo formation, in which soldiers locked shields like a human tank, was perfect for storming walls or dodging arrows. Romans also mastered logistics, building roads and forts to keep supplies flowing. Their engineers could whip up siege towers or catapults on the fly, turning battles into high-tech takedowns for their time. The military wasn't just about fighting, it was a career ladder. A legionary could rise to centurion, commanding 80 men, or even higher if he played his cards right. Loyalty to the emperor was everything. Soldiers swore oaths to him, not the state. But that loyalty could flip. A general with enough wins and charm could rally his troops to march on Rome itself, like Julius Caesar did. It's like a modern general turning their army into a political weapon. High stakes, high drama. For ordinary Romans, the military was a source of pride and fear. Victories brought parades with captured loot and chained enemies. But a defeat? That could shake the empire. The military also spread Roman culture, building cities and roads wherever they went. Rome's military genius lives on in our world, evident in military academies, disciplined training, and even the word legion. But could you imagine signing up for 25 years with no leave, no phones, just a sword and a dream of glory? Probably not. Still, the Roman military's strength and strategy show why Rome ruled, and why we're still obsessed with their epic story. And there you have it, Ancient Odyssey fans, a whirlwind tour through the vibrant and downright epic world of ancient Rome. From the bustling streets and hearty meals of daily life to the military might that carved out an empire, we've seen how Romans lived and ruled in ways that feel both foreign and familiar. Their cities, their spectacles, their gods, and their power plays laid the groundwork for so much of our modern world. Pretty mind-blowing, right? If this journey through Rome's past got you hooked, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments. What part of Roman life would you want to experience? Until next time, keep exploring the past with us here at Ancient Odyssey, because history's stories are just waiting to be told.